So we're going to get started on the quiz day warm-up. It's the pink paper in front of you. There's a couple questions that I didn't put questions like this on the practice worksheet, so I want to make sure that we know how to do them before we go into the quiz. These are things that you practice doing on day one. So this one, multiplying. You should know how to distribute, and you should know how to multiply. When you multiply, you can either use a box or you can FOIL. So which way do y'all like to do it?
FOIL is easier.
Okay, I hear a lot of both, and so I will show you both ways. I do. Oh, it's hot in here. Let me see. Come here, I'll give you a pencil. Does anybody else need a pencil? Okay. So if you do a box, well, hold on, show me your hands. Who uses a box? Okay, who uses FOIL? Okay, a few of each. So if you do a box, you draw out a box. I'm going to put this down a little bit lower. And in the box, that's not what I meant to do. Outside the box, you put the two factors. It doesn't matter what you put along the top or along the side, doesn't matter. Plus 6 and x minus 3. And then this is like a Punnett square from biology. You multiply into each square. So x times x is x squared. I have x times 6 is 6x. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. 6 times negative 3. What's 6 times negative 3? Negative 18. You will always combine diagonally. You combine like terms. Diagonally, you have two. You have two terms that have an x, so you can put these together. So this will be my first term. This will be my last term. This will be my middle term once I combine it. So this equals x squared, and then I have 6 minus 3, so plus 3x minus 18. That is multiplying using a box. You can use a box. I am fine with that. Another way to do it is doing FOIL, and FOIL stands for first, outer, inner, and then last. To be honest, it doesn't matter what order that you do those in. You just need to make sure you do all of them. And so what it's doing is it's connecting all of the pieces. So it's the first term times the first term. Then you can do the outer terms. The two outer terms, the x and the 6. And then we can do inner, and then we can do the two last terms. It doesn't really matter what order, you just need to make sure you connect everything. So the first two terms in the parentheses, x times x is x squared. Then I have x times 6, so it's 6x. Then inner, negative 3 times x, negative 3x, and then I have last, so negative 3 times 6, so negative 18. When you do this, the terms that you find to combine are going to be your middle terms, if you do it in that order. So I end up with x squared. 6 minus 3 is 3x minus 18. So you have a question on your quiz that you have to multiply. You also have a question that you have to distribute. So remember that you just distribute into both pieces. I can't give you partial credit on the quiz unless you show me work. So you need to make sure you show me work for everything. The next question, factoring. Multiplying and factoring are like opposites. So factoring is like dividing. To factor out the GCF, you have 2 questions on your quiz that are factor out the GCF. One of them I think is kind of easy. This one is the harder one. So I wanted to do the harder one with you. So we have to look at the biggest number that can go into both 4 and 24. What's the biggest number? 4 can go into both of them. And now I have to look at the terms. So do they both have an A? Yeah, so I can definitely pull out an A. Do they both have a B? No, so I can't pull out B. Do they both have a C? They just, this one has 2 and this one has 1. So the most I can pull out is a C. Hello. Here, bring them to me. Is there anything else in that box? Thank you.
Out of here.
I know, I can't help it. So when you factor out a GCF, you pull it out and write it into the front. Do not lose it. So 4AC gets written out in front, and then I'm going to write down what I have left. Anytime you have something over itself, it becomes 1. So that becomes 1. That becomes 1. And then I have C squared over C. And so remember that what that is like is having 2 C's on top and 1 C on bottom. So 1 matches up and I'm only left with 1 C on the top. Plus, what's 24 divided by 4? Very good. The A's will match up. There's no B to reduce, so it's going to be a B squared, and then the C's match up. So that is factoring out the GCF. You could always check this by distributing. You could distribute that into both pieces. If you wanted to check your work, you should end up with what you started with. Is anybody still copying? You look for the biggest number that goes into both of these. So 4 goes into both of them. So I'm going to divide out of 4. And then I start looking at the variables.
Oh, yeah.
They both have an A, so I'm going to divide out an A. They don't both have a B, so I can't divide out B. But they do both have a C, so I can pull out a C. So, like for this one, 4 divided by 4 is 1. A divided by A is 1. C squared means I have 2 C's on top and 1 on bottom. So 1 matches up, I'm left with 1 C. So that's how I get the C here. For this one, 24 divided by 4 is 6. The A over itself is just a 1. There is nothing to divide out the B. So it's B squared, stays B squared. And then the C matches up, it becomes 1. The next question, factor by grouping. So we're going to have 2 different groups. We're going to have our first group, and then we're going to have our second group. So for the first group, it's more GCF factoring. So you have another question on your quiz. You have 2 that are GCF. One, just like we did with A, B, and C. You have another one that's more like factor out the GCF of just 2 terms. Something like this. So if we look at this one, what's the biggest number that can go into 3 and 12? 3. Do they both have an X? Yeah, so the most I can pull out is just 1X. So I'm gonna pull that out, and the 3X goes in the front, and then I divide. So 3 divided by 3 is a 1. And when I have X squared over X, that's like 2 X's on top and 1 on bottom. So 1 reduces and you're just left with an X. Plus 12 divided by 3, what's that? 4. And then X over X. What's X over X? It's just 1. Anything over itself is just 1. So I'm done there. The next GCF, we have to look at this. We've got 2 and we have 8. What's the biggest number that can divide into 2 and 8? 2. Do they have an X, both of them? No, so you can't pull out an X, just a 2. Is it a positive or a negative 2? Positive 2. So I'm going to put positive 2, and then I'm going to write down what I have left. 2 over itself is 1. And I'm left with an X. What's 8 divided by 2? 4. Our goal when we do factor by grouping is to get 2 factors that are exactly the same. If you don't, you did something wrong. Do I have 2 factors that are the same? Do I have 2 parentheses that are exactly the same? Yeah, so I'm on the right track. As soon as you get 2 parentheses that are exactly the same, you take it and you write it 1 time out in front. And then we're going to write down what is left. What I have left is a 3X and a plus 2. That's it. So as soon as you get 2 parentheses that are the same, you write it down 1 time, and then we're going to write down what we have left, the 3X and the plus 2. That's how I get the second one. For the next one, a difference of perfect squares. I'm telling you that it is a difference of perfect squares. So because I am telling you it is a difference of perfect squares, they have to both be something squared. We already have X squared, so that is something squared. How can we rewrite 100 so that it is something squared? 100 is not 50 squared. 10 squared, 10 squared. So let's rewrite that. It's the same thing as X squared minus 10 squared. Please rewrite it on your paper. As soon as you have something squared minus something squared, you're only looking at these. Only those things matter when we go to write the factors for difference of perfect squares. We'll have 2 parentheses and we put them exactly in that order. This is going to be written first, and then this is going to be written second. They have to be in that order. So I have an X and a 10, an X and a 10. And what are the signs that go in there? A plus and a minus. It doesn't matter which one is which. One of them needs to be plus and one of them needs to be minus. It doesn't matter which one. One needs to be plus and one needs to be minus. That is a difference of perfect squares, and it has that pattern for the answer. So if I tell you on your quiz, you're doing a difference of perfect squares, you need to rewrite that second term as something squared. We are almost done with our warm-up. We have 2 more questions. The next one, factor, then find the solution set. Factor, then find the solution set. So to factor this, and you have another question on your quiz where you just have to factor and you stop. So you have one question on your quiz where you have to factor a trinomial and then you stop. And then you have another question where you factor and then find the answers. So to factor and then find the answers, I have to look at factors of 24. So things that can multiply to give me 24 off to the side. I've got 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. I think that's it. I need a factor pair that can be put together to make 5.
-3 and 8.
I could put 8 and 3 together, right? So I'm going to get my factors. I'm going to have X and I'm going to have X, 3 and 8. You have to look at the middle term. That middle term will tell you the sign of the bigger number. So which number is bigger? 8. So 8 has to be positive. From there, if I have 8, would I add or subtract 3 to make 5? I have to subtract. That's how I can figure out my second sign. These are the factors. From factors, can I easily find solutions? If I give you factors, you should be able to easily give me solutions, right? So to find solutions, you can set each one of these equal to 0. So x minus 3 equals 0, and then x plus 8 equals 0. Are those ones that we could do in our head? Yeah, we can do those in our head. The other ones, the ones that become fractions, don't do those in your head. Don't. You'll make a mistake. Just write those out. So for these, what are my solutions? X is equal to what? 3. What else? -8. These are not ordered pairs, so they do not have to go in a specific order. However, most likely on your quiz, if those were your two solutions, you would see -8 first. So these are the solutions. Did you get the same answers? You're good. I don't care how you get your answer. If you like to factor with a box, that's fine. You can do that. The next question. Every single body in this room better get this question correct on the quiz. I don't care if today is your first day in class. Everybody better get that question right on the quiz because it is too freaking easy to get wrong. What is the solution set, or what are the solutions when you're looking at a graph? X-intercepts is just where you cross the x-axis. So how many answers do I have for that graph? 2. What are they? Yep. My answers are the places where my graph crosses the x-axis. So all you do is tell me where those 2 places are. So for this one, the x is equal to -3 and 1. Next, it says, is it possible to have a graph with no solution? What would that graph look like? Sideways. So do you mean like, so if I'm just a U-shaped graph, am I going to do what? That is exactly right. So some possibilities, I could be above it, anywhere above it, but I have to be above facing up, or I could be below facing down, right? Do those cross the x-axis? So would there be any solution? That is it, friends.